Billionaires clashed, nearly $1 billion got liquidated, and Trump put Powell right in his crosshairs. From Musk versus Trump theatrics to market mayhem, rising Fed pressure, and a wave of stablecoin momentum behind the Genius Act. This week wasn't just about drama, it was about setting the stage for what comes next. Big egos, big moves, and even bigger implications. And let's unpack it all. Hello and welcome back to Prodigal Son Crypto, your go-to source for mastering the cycle, decoding macro signals, and staying ahead in the world of crypto. If you're into market structure, narratives, and knowing where the real money moves, you're in the right place. Let's get into this week's action. And as always, if you find value with this content, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss a beat. Let's get into it. Well, I don't know where you've been if you've missed out on the Trump versus Musk drama this week. Go online and have a little catch up on their pages on X and Truth Social if you missed it all. But so it started with Musk slamming Trump's big beautiful bill as reckless and wasteful. Trump hit back, threatened to cancel all the SpaceX and Tesla contracts with the government, and Musk threatened to decommission the Dragon capsule, you know, the one where he saved the astronauts with the SpaceX project. And Elon brought the Epstein files up and said that Trump's in them. That could be the case. Who knows? But it was a lot of mudslinging going on, a lot of handbags at dawn. Tesla stock crashed 14%. Musk lost 34 billion on that move. Tesla will probably recover from that, but at the time it probably didn't feel nice for Elon. But boys will be boys. And Trump plays it down, thinking he says he's not thinking about Elon, but the contract threats remain. And there's a lot of speculation at the moment. Will they reconcile? Is this just theatrics? Or will Musk start his own party? He's already on there saying that 80% of Americans aren't getting their say, and he will create a party that does that. So there's lots of things being said. All the popcorn got eaten watching this unfold. Let's be fair to that. And then also, yep. Just in, President Trump to announce next Fed chair very soon. Not that soon, so don't get too excited. Trump wants a new Fed chair. He's putting a lot of pressure on Powell to do aggressive rate cuts. He wants a full 10 basis points, 1% off. He's already got someone called Kevin Warsh, who's a former Fed Gov and policy hawk, who's a top contender. But the thing is, Powell can't be fired just yet. His term ends in May 2026. Like, the Senate would have to approve any new pick, but there has to be good grounds to let a Fed chair go. And at the moment, he's just doing his job. So why is Trump trying to float this now? Well, he wants a signal to shift looser policy. He wants to appeal to the markets and the voters, and he wants to pressure Powell. He wants maybe a distraction from the Musk spat. He wants to look strong on the economy, So, we all want rate cuts, don't we? And I'm sure they'll come sooner or later. I mean, the inflation looks like it's coming down by all accounts. So, fingers crossed. And look, and you've got the rest of the world, you've got China, Bank of England, European Central Bank, Canada. They're all cutting rates at the moment. So I guess that's where Trump's coming from here. He's like, everyone's cutting rates. Inflation's coming down across the world globally. And he looks like Jerome's being slow to move. So I can understand the pressure he's trying to put on Powell there. But at the end of the day, Powell's just trying to do his job as well. So and there's no way he's getting Powell out anytime soon, in my opinion. And here's a little clip of Trump talking on that matter.
Years inflation comes back, he raises rates, but he keeps them the same. It's insane.
Are you already thinking about your next venture? Are you already thinking about your next venture? I know it's 2026 when his permits are school. So you're already thinking about.
Oh yes, it's coming out very soon.
What are you thinking about?
I could tell you, but I don't think
what do you make?
I have a pretty good idea who it is. He's very highly thought.
Yeah, that's just Trump just stirring the pot even more, and he's been doing it online as well. Here he is. If too late at the Fed would cut, we would greatly reduce interest rates, long and short, on debt that is coming due. Biden went mostly short term. There is virtually no inflation anymore. But if it should come back, raise rate to counter. It's very simple. That's true. And he is costing our country a fortune. Borrowing costs should be much lower. And then you've got Tom Lee, founder of Fundstrat. Fed on pause is not bad for stocks. Bears want you to believe that. And this can be true because markets can still run on a pause, yeah? Because you've got global easing, so other major central banks, like I mentioned earlier, the ECB, the BOE, the BOC, they're all cutting, boosting global liquidity. And we can see that in the global M2, yeah? Obviously, the bigger part of the M2 is the US M2, but you know they're all cutting and they're all boosting global liquidity, and the Fed are behind on that. Yeah, there's rate cut anticipation, so markets can often run ahead of the actual Fed cuts because they know they're coming. They're pricing it in for the future. Yeah. And you've got the disinflation trend, you know, cooling inflation supports risk assets, even if the Fed holds steady. Got strong earnings and AI narrative. US corporate earnings, especially in tech, remain robust. Yeah. And you've got this AI narrative, you know, the future of technology is happening in front of us. You know, that's enough narrative there alone to keep a lot of stock of big corporate companies going, you know. A lot of speculation investment on that AI part. And then you've got it also with all the booming technology of crypto as well. So then you've also got capital rotation. Money just flows into equities from cash as yields stabilize or fall, you know, elsewhere. So, you know, they've got all of that as well. And relative rates, even with a pause, US real rates may stay supportive compared to history. So there's a lot of other aspects to this, you know. So, yeah, don't just believe the bears when they're saying, you know, we need a rate cut to go up. I mean, we haven't had a rate cut all year so far, and we've managed to travel in an upwards direction. So, you know, just don't always think it's all about these rate cuts. Now, obviously, it is in the long run. You know, it needs to be happening to see positive markets. But like I say, it doesn't have to be happening step by step. We don't get a rate cut, then a pump, rate cut, then a pump. That's not how it works. So don't be holding out for that. Moving on, I've got a little clip here from Henrik Zeberg. He's one of my favourite analysts and economists. Some of his predictions are just bang on my thinking. When it gets a bit more shorter term about price actions and price swings moving, you know, I can take it with a pinch of salt. It could be right, could be wrong. You know, there's a lot of context to what he's saying, but generally, what he says about like global economy, the business cycle, and theories about an oncoming recession after this major bull market, I'm on that 100%. So let me play a little bit of Henrik and see what you think.
For Bitcoin, for quite some time now, I've had the target of 148,000, around that level. Maybe higher, could go all the way to 160, but I think 148 would be around the minimum we should see into the final top of that. I'll just have to say that. It may not be as aggressive as a lot of people think. And if I'm wrong, then I'm really wrong, because that means then we are moving into a lock world, and then it can go to 200,000 or something like that, or 300,000 maybe. But that's not my main. Again, we always have to work in scenarios, right? And I'm in the scenario right now where we have a moderate development into a top, which I think can top out of 148. That's my main scenario. And in that scenario, you could still see a lot of cryptos going quite, to extreme levels. I see the altcoins index at 3.5 trillion. The market in the capitalization of that. What is that? That's the total index without Ethereum, Bitcoin. That can go to that level. We can see some extreme moves in some of these alts into that phase. And I think that is, what is driving that is the rise in the global supply. The supply of money, the M2 rate that we see the rise there. And I think that is going to happen for the next long time, because what we have into the final part of the business cycle slowdown is exactly that the central banks comes out and they start to stimulate the economy to make sure that the economy is not going to fall into recession. And that's what we see now. And I saw the last 2 months here, we actually saw the global M2 just having another 1.2 trillion in extra liquidity coming in, which is not something we just see and hear about on the daily, but that was just for April and May alone. And we had a lot of the, I think it was 3 trillion in the first quarter alone also. So we are seeing a lot of liquidity coming in at this point, and that is what is going to drive the crypto market and the Bitcoin market. And I know all the Bitcoin maximalists and so on would like us to see that this is because there's now a new understanding of Bitcoin and the crypto is going to change the world. Well, there'll be a few crypto projects that's going to be fantastic in the long time frame. There's going to be the Amazon and the whatever it's going to be from the 2000s, but it's not going to be all 10,000 of them or how many there are. So the liquidity if coming in here is what is driving the growth in this, and everybody's having it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy now that when M2 goes up, Bitcoin goes up because everybody says so. So it's like becoming that kind of, I see an end to it. At some point, there'll be an end to this, to Bitcoin, and we'll see a big top, and it's going to come down strongly. And then it will have to show itself the strength of Bitcoin into a potential recession. I think that would be the real test for Bitcoin at some point. And for a lot of cryptos, they're going to get crushed. So still expecting the animal spirit to take over. And a lot of cryptos and altcoins, tokens, whatever they're called, and Bitcoin driving that, pulling the liquidity in, and then you start to see that circulating in that space, and then you have the whole thing going.
So you expect for Bitcoin more specifically a more short-term path towards the 20,000 and then a pullback, or how would that movement look like?
Yeah, I work with different scenarios there, because I think we could see one where we actually get a new all-time high. We go to 120,000, then we see a deeper pullback down to 103,000 maybe. But I could also see that we actually have a more we have a bounce now in Bitcoin going up to around the level of 111,000, maybe there, and then we go down again and we hit 8,000 at that point. And that would be something people would not really understand, and they will probably talk about, a double top. But that's the way the market works. It needs to consolidate. I think June is going to be good, but I think July may not be so good. And I think the July will be the pullback before we head into the final showdown of the Bitcoin's cycle this time.
And you also have a more close, let's say, monitoring of Ethereum. Ethereum had quite some losses in the last months. It's been performing highly poorly, and it's been really painful for Ethereum holders. Do you see that coming back to its previous all-time high levels or even higher at the same time?
Oh yeah, we're just, as I say, we're just starting to see what we call the Ethereum phase in Swissblock. And what does that mean? That's when Ethereum starts to outperform Bitcoin. So while Bitcoin is now struggling to get higher in that kind of volatile environment that I could see ahead into new highs, you'll actually see Ethereum starting to take over, and that's good news for the altcoins, because normally when the Ethereum starts to take over, you'll see that you have the largest move there, and that's where some of the capital have been moving into Bitcoin, or then coming into Ethereum, and then coming into the altcoins as well, and you start to see that rotation into other and more risky tokens, coins, and whatever they're called. So Ethereum, I see good development there. I think we're going to see 6,100, 500 maybe even on Ethereum. So quite a move from here still.
And that in the still which time frame?
Oh, that'll be, to me, time frame I normally refrain from answering, but into the same kind of time frame as we see the Bitcoin probably will top out before. If you study the top into 2021, you'll actually see that Bitcoin was the first one to top out. And then you saw and this is the top we had early 21. The second one was actually part of a correction, but I don't want to get into that. But the first top in there, you'll actually see how Bitcoin actually topped out first, and then you saw Ethereum and the altcoins coming after. Because then when Bitcoin starts to slow, the capital rotation goes into these. So I would think that Bitcoin tops out late summer, maybe in the beginning of the autumn, and then you'll see the altcoins and Ethereum topping out later in the autumn.
So yeah, I hope you liked that little clip of Henrik Zeberg. I really like his analysis. I've got to give credit to him. He puts his neck on the line. He gives some predictions. You know, he's not always going to be right. He's only human, just like any of us. But he gives his best analysis of what he thinks is going to happen, and a lot of that stuff what he's saying there, I can see that happening. You know, I'm not going to get too much into the swings of, you know, where it's going and that, but what he said there at the end was very true. I can definitely see the rotation into altcoins. I can see Ethereum has bottomed. I'm going to say it's bottomed as well, against Bitcoin at least as well. And we're going to touch more on that as well as we go into the show about the rotation into Ethereum or other risk assets. Then you've got this chart here from TechDev on the M2. So a little bit of an update on the M2 here. TechDev is now saying that the M2 has a 11-week lead. And now in my recent video the other day, I said that I believed it was now a 78-day lead without even thinking. I'd been playing around with the indicator and it said 78 days, which was the closest I could get it. And well, what is 11 weeks? It's 77 days. So I was 1 day off, so not too bad. Yeah, looking at this now, I mean, it's showing where 12 weeks ahead where we're going. And in August, you know, it's up at like... It's up at highs. I mean, you can't go by the price of where it is on these indicators. Whenever you look at that, don't go, oh, that's the price. You know, it's not going to 200k. It's not saying 200k there, but it's just saying it's a directional indicator, like I always say, and it's showing that we're going to keep going up. And the correction looks pretty bang on for where we are. And there's another view of that, you know, and you know, like Henrik said, M2, and you probably saw me nodding my head to it. M2, it's not going to last forever. We're not going to always follow this indicator, but while it's working, it's great. Yeah, when we see it's obviously not working, then we can throw it in the trash can until it works again. But it's an interesting one because it has worked in the past. It will work again. It won't always work consistently and repetitively. Yeah, so we'll keep our eye on it for now as it is. Yeah. Then you've got Willy Woo here saying, is Super Orange Coin forming a market double top? Very unlikely. Liquidity powering BTC is rising, hence risk of a bear market is dropping. So Willy Woo is a top analyst and for Bitcoin and on-chain analysis, and he's saying it's not a double top. It's not at the risk level. See the local risk model down there. He's saying it's not a risk level for a top. Yeah. So we move on to this. Another chart from TechDev. This is the liquidity-weighted BTC business cycle indicator is now showing us that a big leg up is coming as well. If you can see here, look, we're just turning green here, both on Bitcoin and the liquidity-weighted business cycle indicator. Tapping on this line here 3 times, and this is a bottom, just like here and here, and this could indicate. And it doesn't have to be Bitcoin at a bottom, yeah? It's more to do with the liquidity on the business cycle that it directs that the move up would come. And it's looking pretty good on there. And then we've got CryptoCon, yeah? He's saying Bitcoin still looks like May 2017 before the entire bull run. Now, this is his 3-week Fibonacci channel RSI, okay? And what he's saying that, he's indicating that, if you look here in 2017, this RSI and this like Fibonacci angled ranges, you know, it's following just a similar pattern here. So like a lot of these charts can be a bit of hopium sometimes, but you know, some of these signals, they don't come around very often, and cycles repeat signals in indicators. And he spotted this one, and fair play to him. It looks very good. So, you know, another sign that we could potentially see that big leg up soon. So, yeah, and it would be about time, wouldn't it? And then you've got Cryptorian Vision, and he's showing about the golden crosses. A golden cross is forming on BTC when the 50-day moving average, the SMA 50 in the orange line, and crosses above the 200-day moving average, the SMA, the purple line. Historically, this pattern has triggered an average price surge of 90%. Adding to that, the MA 350 from the Pi cycle top points to 158k. The logarithmic regression band projects a target near 183k. Technical alignment is all in place. The next leg up could be the most explosive of the cycle. Be prepared. And that's what we're all waiting for. And some of these indicators are indicating that the big leg up is coming, you know. And as we saw, and as we spoke about in my recent video the other day, by the way, go and watch that, the When Alt Season video. I went through loads of charts, about an hour-long video. Sink your teeth into that one, really good. And as it showed, there's a lot of top indicators that was nowhere near showing a top, you know, or have not even got anywhere near a top. So, and here we go, the golden crosses. Here you can see 1, 2, 3. And now we're going on to a fourth one in this sort of this bull market, basically. And each one so far, we had one hit a 90.67% move, yeah, from the bottom to from the golden cross until its local high, and then here it went 89%, and then here it went 91% or 92%. Then it went here 86%, and here 90%. You know, yeah. So if we have a look here from this golden cross. You know, if it was to make like a 90% move from this golden cross here, so that would be, up at around 180k. And what he's saying is that coincides with the Pi cycle top indicator. You know, so, you know, bullish as hell. You know, we hope that could happen. You know, we're not going to put all our eggs in one basket. But I tell you what, all that matters really is that directional change, that direction of price action keeps moving that way, and then we get the bullish conditions for altcoins. That's what we're here for. And then another one, something that TechDev also brought up that I liked as well. This is the Bollinger Bands on the total 2 with the 2-month chart. Look how tight they're getting. Look how tight they're getting. And then also we've got this sort of rising, scaling triangle here. You know, the top's holding here, the top price here around 1.4 trillion. Yeah, around that mark. Yeah, it's about somewhere between 1.4, 1.5 trillion if you include the wicks. And then it's been holding that as the top. And then it's been holding this trend going up, and we're getting to an inflection point at some point here, you know. And with these Bollinger Bands just tightening up like this, I mean, they're in a channel. They've never been like that before. And here, obviously, you know, obviously this doesn't go that far back. It's Bollinger Bands on a 2-month chart for total 2. Doesn't go back that far. But, you know, last time it was this tight here, you know, it had a big move up, and this time it's tight. You know, it probably would have been tight here. Explosive move. It got tight here. Explosive move. It's getting tight here. Let's hope. Explosive move. And the other day, while all that chaos was going on between Trump and Elon and the markets were tanking and nobody really understood why until they went onto X and saw all the tweets, you know, that Thursday, 983 million, close to $1 billion was liquidated in the crypto markets, with 262 million of that of longs liquidated within just 1 hour. This could signal that that was a low, and we are going to continue bouncing from here. So fingers crossed for that. But that's a lot of longs liquidated in just 1 hour. And when you get like those days where like a billion's liquidated from the markets, it can often signal, you know, a turning point, you know. So that $1 billion mark is something I always look at as maybe a good day to take profits if you're long, or, you know, if you're looking to get entries. You know, when you see $1 billion white from the market, it's probably a good time to get in, you know. Yeah. And the fear and greed, you know, for the most of May has been climbing up into greed. It's been greed all of that time throughout May. And then now we are coming down into fear. We had fear yesterday and we've had neutral today. Could we get a little bit more fear before we move on? Sure we could. Could we get extreme fear? Yes, maybe. Sometimes you can get more fear on a higher low than you did on the original low. So the other day we had a low, Thursday we had a low, Thursday/Friday, low at fear. You know, could we get a higher low? Maybe extreme fear. It could be a lower low. Who knows? But yeah, just highlighting here, we are heading into the neutral fear zone, and we've been in greed for the last month. So could be things changing. Could be a sign that we've had a short, quick dip, and we're moving on. And if you are looking at buying altcoins, this is probably a good time. It probably doesn't feel like it, you know. It feels like altcoins are underperforming. It feels like Bitcoin's stealing the show. But, you know, when you zoom out and you've got all of these times before, they were all good times to buy altcoins. When you're up here and you're seeing these spikes up here, that's when you're like, I wish I'd loaded up on more altcoins. And Bitcoin dominance, here we go. It's climbing up this rising wedge, you know. This is something I'm looking at. Could it break down from here? Usually a climbing rising wedge like this would fall to the downside. So it's getting to an inflection point soon. You know, it could take a number of weeks, but my hope is that this just starts to fall down here, because this seems to be a higher. That wick, maybe, you could never tell, but hopefully with the timing and with all the other indicators showing us what's going on, you know, maybe it could roll over. But then again, Bitcoin could carry on to steal the show as it climbs higher. And then when Bitcoin settles down, that's when we could see alts run. Talking about Ethereum, the Ethereum Bitcoin pair, has it bottomed? You know, down here at 0.176. You know, it's fighting now to get through this 2.024 level. And then the next level up there would be to challenge that 0.267 level. There's a lot of resistance up there, but yeah, it looks like a bull flag at the moment, but it's carrying on for quite a while now, isn't it? We are starting to hopefully see a 5 and 13 EMA cross. Yeah, it's going almost flat out, those, like flattening out those EMAs, but all we need to see is a tick up there. I'm a very big advocate for the 5 and 13 weekly EMAs. If you don't use them on your charts, have a look at them, back test them, see that they don't cross that often, and they do signal major trend changes quite often. We've got USDT dominance here, and we're waiting for this one to break down. It's looking like it's going to challenge this 4.82 level, and you know, it's looking at that as resistance at the moment. It's former support flipped into resistance, and yeah, hopefully that can come down too. We're hoping to see USDTD here drop below, and it looks like it's heading down. It looks like it hopefully will meet resistance there and start to head down to this 3.73 level. And you know, that's been a low for quite a while there. It spent a lot of time down there, so I don't expect to break straight through there, but I would like to see this start heading down there. That might signal a good time for all cryptocurrencies, and a bit of upside, a long awaited upside. Ethereum, things are changing for Ethereum. It looks like it might be getting a bit popular again. A lot of people were, you know, disgusted with Ethereum's performance over the last year or so, and were saying it's dead, and you've got faster layer ones and all of that stuff. But as I was always saying, big smart money, institutional money, will go for security over fast and cheap. They're not worried about paying for like a $5-10 transaction, you know, and to be fair, Ethereum are working on that and bringing it down, those costs of gas and everything like that, and scaling it and everything. And Blackrock have just bought 15.9 million worth of ETH on June the 6th. That was yesterday, I believe. Yes, it was. And the world's largest asset manager is loading up on Ethereum. If that doesn't have your attention, it should. And yes, it should. Because also, BlackRock has bought ETH for 9 days in a row. The Ether ETF has received over 492 million of inflows in the past 9 consecutive trading days. Ethereum will go much higher, and that's not all. over 340,000 ETH worth nearly 900 million are now queued for Ethereum staking, the highest level in over a year amid rising demand post SEC guidance. You know, there it is. That's a screenshot of all the ETH that is queuing for staking. So yeah, big things happening with ETH. Whoever was fudding ETH, maybe you might be eating your words a little bit now, or you will be when the price goes up. Like I said, I'm not a massive holder of ETH, but I really believe in this ecosystem, and I'm investing in a number of its projects. Not financial advice, but I believe it's going up. And as we was touching on earlier, when we was watching the Henrik Zeberg talk, yeah, he was talking about the phases of risk flow, yeah, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to large caps. Maybe BlackRock are playing this game now, yeah. Maybe they know this game, yeah. There's all of us thinking alt season's like taking so long to come, but it might be coming now, and BlackRock can see that, and they're going to get in on the Ethereum, and then we will start to see these flows down. Will we see maybe later on in the year BlackRock buying ETFs or starting ETFs of Solana or Sui or Cardano or XRP or whatever coin it is? But this flow, I believe it happens. It's cyclical. It's just cyclical. Then we've got Mr. Crypto here. One last blow off top. Timeline will be euphoric. Everyone will call for 200k, and that's exactly when you take profits. Got it? Make sure you take profits. And he's right there. You should take profits. You should. If you start seeing, the next leg up, you should. But it depends what you're doing, because if you're in altcoins, you're waiting for that Bitcoin dominance to fall. And I believe by the time this happens, it will start falling, and you will get those opportunities. But don't be too quick to sell. Yeah, make sure you're assessing everything that's going on, because sometimes as soon as your altcoin pumps 50%, you're going to sell all your bag, and then it goes on to do a 2, 3, 5, 10x. Yeah. So what I believe you should always do is take profits in stages, whatever's right for you. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different goals. Everyone's got different bills to take care of and families to look after and different things going on in their life. So it's each their own, but always take profits. Don't sell too early, because you want to make sure, if you've been waiting around in your altcoin or been invested in this market for a while, you want to make sure you're getting a sufficient payback for your time and efforts. Also, news today, X officially partners with crypto prediction platform Polymarket. So well done to Polygon. There they are, the first to comment, or they're at the top of the comments because they've got their gold tick. But yeah, that's great news. Polymarkets have been doing great. I quite often go on there to see how things are going. I think you saw in my last video, I was looking at what's possibly going to happen with the next Fed rate decision, and you can go on there and see that, and you can even bet on what you think is going to happen as well by putting your money where your mouth is, and lots of people do, and it's a great platform, and to see that working with X is going to be really interesting. In other news, the latest Circle's IPO surged nearly 300% in its first 2 days. That outperformed debut performances from Meta, Airbnb, and Robinhood. I mean, this just shows you how big this space is going to get. This a hugely successful IPO, outperforming the likes of those big giants. When it comes to stablecoins, that's will spread over into the ecosystems that support those stablecoins or hold those stablecoins on chain. Like Solana, Ethereum. They're going to benefit from this industry just growing huge. So anyone that's holding USDC on their chain, those chains will benefit from this, and I'm sure there'll be more scrabbles to get more USDC on other chains as well as we go forward. We're going to just see this industry expand. This is great news. And more big names. Apple, X, Airbnb, and Google are reportedly in early talks to integrate stablecoins, signaling big tech's growing move into crypto. Payments amid shifting US policy. And as we know, the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, all of that coming into play, we're about to see this industry change in a big way. I think everyone was thinking it was going to happen sooner, but there's the signs now that this is coming, and it's inevitable. And here's a video of Senator Cynthia Loomis talking about the Genius Act and the stablecoin bill.
We will start voting on the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, this week. I don't think we're going to complete it this week. We'll probably have to go into next week because a number of amendments will be filed. But we have worked long and hard to bring Democrats to the place where they can vote for cloture. I think we're there.
So what are the remaining hurdles for Democrats? What have they told you that their concerns are? What's keeping them from getting on board completely?
Well, we have generally agreed to many of the amendments they wanted. There were concerns about illicit finance. We've addressed some of those. And we're just waiting to see what amendments are filed by both parties as we move the bill to full consideration on the floor of the Senate. One of the things that I'm looking for is whether the Durbin-Marshall bill, it will be attempted to attach to the stablecoin bill. It's not about stablecoins, it's about credit card swipe fees, but this bill may be seen as a vehicle to attach, and that would be a heavy lift to take a bill that already has been carefully negotiated.
One more on the timeline here for the American people who are watching and listening right now. In your view, what sort of week or month could this bill actually become law?
Well, we're going to pass it next week.
Okay.
And so it will provide new markets for U.S. treasuries. It will help protect the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. It will provide a way for something like a traveler's check to be used digitally. It's pegged to the dollar, so it's sort of it's a payment stablecoin, something that can be used for payments in a digital format. This is going to create more versatility for the U.S. economy and move us into the 21st century.
For the world of crypto and for the stablecoin world as well, it will be historic. I mean, this will definitely change the game. One question I have, though, is the usage. There was a lot of question about the ability, or rather in the most recent lawmaking, the prohibition of interest-bearing accounts, this idea to have individuals hold stablecoins for the purposes of collecting yield. But there's a sense here that this would allow then for tokenized deposits to become a much better vehicle by which the financial system can use crypto to become a depository tool. What do you say to the industry that is still pushing for those interest-bearing accounts?
Yeah, I tend to agree with them, but we can't get the bill passed if that provision is in there. So at some point, when it comes to making sausage or making legislation, you have to count the votes. And the votes aren't there to pass the bill if the interest-bearing provision is in the bill. Now, we're just going to send this bill to the House. And so the House will have an opportunity to work on this bill as well. I suspect that issue will be brought up when the Genius Act goes to the House.
We're probably going to hear more on this next week. I don't know if you've seen any clips of the hearing that was going on over this. The Democrats were pushing back a bit. Some of them hadn't bothered to read the full bill. But as she says there, Cynthia says, by having the stake in the yield part in there, it just adds more confusion to it. So if they want to get the bill passed through for stablecoins, then and this Genius Act, then they just need to keep it more simple, and then they can look to take on those other factors later on. And I think that makes sense as well. If they want to get the votes, keep it simple, and that's what they've tried to do. But yet the Democrats didn't even bother to read a lot of it, and but apparently that's just a handful of Democrats. There's a lot that are pro the Genius Act as well. So it's looking like it's going to get passed. It's going to get the numbers. She seems confident, so hopefully we see that confirmed next week. And if you're there thinking, what is the Genius Act for stablecoins? What is this? You know, I've done these little diagrams to explain that to you. Basically, it's all about reserves for those dollar stablecoins. You know, real dollars, real assets backing the stablecoins. And it says, what is the Genius Act? Federal and state oversight, 100% USD and Treasury reserves for every dollar stablecoin, monthly reserve disclosures, annual audits if the stablecoin token values are over 50 billion market cap, no false claims of government backing, rules to avoid runs, diverse low-risk reserves, no risky assets, e.g. stocks, corp bonds, or backed by other cryptos like some have done in the past. So hopefully that explains the Genius Act to you a little bit. And here's Senator Bill Haggerty saying that crypto stablecoin legislation is going to propel America's payment system into the 21st century.
We have broad agreement, Kaylee, with respect to the content of this stablecoin legislation, My Genius Act. And this is going to, I think, take us into the 21st century in terms of upgrading our payment systems. It's going to have very desirable effects, taking the U.S. economy into the digital assets arena, keeping innovation here, lowering risk here in America, and putting in place guardrails that will protect consumers, because every one of these stablecoins will be backed up dollar for dollar with U.S. treasuries. Very positive outcome here. We've got very strong support.
And just to round it up, we have Bitcoin here on the weekly. So just looking at some of the levels here, yeah. So it looks like Bitcoin is challenging. It wants to get up to 106, yeah. 106K is the next level to take out. Then we're looking at 109, and then it's all-time highs. We are not far away from this here. This could all happen very soon, yeah. I think people got a little bit downhearted the other day when we went down a little bit, especially where it's whacking the altcoin bags very hard. But we are literally like 6% away from all-time highs here, 5-6% away, you know. And we've got some support areas here as well, you know. So you want to be watching 104, 268. You want to be watching 101. You know, those areas. And then even if you come down, you know, if we have to come down to like the 93, 94 zone, that's possible. It could even stop here around like 98. You know, there's a lot of price action around here, but you know what? There's not a lot of price action up here, and if we can, you know, there's a lot more support than there is resistance. So, you know, hold your horses and wait and see what comes next. So I hope you enjoyed that show. I want to wish everyone a great rest of the weekend and a strong beginning to next week. And going to leave you there, and I'll see you next time.